What's going on, everyone? So here we have an interview between Destin and Shawn Layden. This one's going to be interesting. So, and this one though, I only watched the first few minutes just to see where it's going to go. Shawn Layden said some interesting things. So, he's definitely going to speak about his importance at PlayStation. How like if he was still leading, you can tell it's about pushing the consoles and not giving up on the consoles. He kind of throws some shots at Microsoft, and I think definitely at Satya and maybe a little bit at Phil, but I would say mostly at Microsoft, which I kind of find interesting. So it gets a little bit spicy. I like Sean Layden, you know what I mean? I don't necessarily have a problem with him like I do with Jim Ryan. I know he was kind of done wrong in that sense too. So yeah, this is all going to get a little bit interesting. Obviously, this is an hour and 20 minutes, so we're not doing that long. We'll have part one, then we're going to have a part two for sure. And I'll see if I need a part three, depending on what type of information is going to be coming down the line in this video. So yeah, there's a lot here to dissect and talk about, and let's do it. All right, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's go. Let's see what happens.
Episode of Save State Plus. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Shawn Layden. Shawn, you're a storied veteran of the PlayStation universe. You ran the company. You were on the board. You did all sorts of fancy stuff over at PlayStation, and it is an absolute pleasure to have you today. How's your day going?
It's going great, Dustin. Thanks for having me on board. It's Pi Day. I don't know if this episode airs today or not, but it is Pi Day. Don't forget 3.14.
Definitely getting some pie today, for
Yeah.
sure. So, for those who don't know, I think everybody knows, but what would you say your biggest contributions were while you were at PlayStation? I mean, I know what pops to my mind: Spider-Man, launching the PlayStation 4. But for you, what were the biggest contributions you had while there?
Well, PlayStation afforded me the opportunity to do so many different things, right? I began there in 1996, right at the Tokyo office, became a game producer without knowing what that title meant. And then laterally ended up going to Europe when we were, you know, integrating the acquisition of Psygnosis Games, and then back to Japan to do sales and marketing for whatever crazy reason that was. Then came back to America. We started a network company, then moved over to chairman of studios. So it afforded me a lot of different opportunities to see the business and have impacts across all of it. I think
Excuse
the
me.
one thing I'm really proudest of, I guess, to say would be in leadership, just trying to lead from the front, whichever team I was working with, and understanding that my job more than anything else is just to remove obstacles from the road. I'm not there to be creative. I'm not there necessarily to come up with a new business model. I'm there to take people who I trust in their vision of what they want to create or how they want to get it to market. And my job is just clearing the road. And I think most chairmen or CEOs probably feel their job in the same way.
Around that time, it was like,
It's interesting the way that he says that's what you would do as a president, like the job that you would be doing, which I kind of find very interesting. Um, because most people don't really talk about that type of position. Like you said, I'm not there to be creative, but he's talking about the president. It is about what is the best for the PlayStation brand at the time. Now it's a little bit different, obviously, in a sense of like it's not only console focus, but it's also PC and other platforms and all that type of stuff, which is yeah, pretty interesting.
it was Phil, it was Reggie. There's an infamous moment where all of you are up on stage. What was
Remember
that
that?
relationship like between the three titans of the industry at that time? Was it contentious? Was it friendly? Was it friendly rivalry?
I think you could call it all of the above, depending on the day, frankly. Uh, all three of us served on the board of the Entertainment Software Association. So being seen together in the same room at the same time wasn't necessarily weird for us per se. But yeah, coming on the stage at Jeff's show that one year at a time when, yeah, everybody was bringing their A game and everyone was trying to win this generation of the hardware, to come together and make a statement about the importance of gaming, that it doesn't matter where you play, it's that you have the chance to play, that you do play. Um, I think that was a big moment. And
You gotta get what he said. That's what I mean. You know what he just said. Basically, sticking to the console hardware race and focusing on consoles. and still playing that game. Shawn Layden still likes that game. You could tell he interjected right there, which I kind of find funny. He's throwing a little bit of shots there. And he's serious about it in a sense, which is very interesting.
Jeff pulled that together. I think pinging the different communications departments at the three companies. Um, I guess the only thing that we all agreed on is either we all do it or we don't do it at all. We're going to have two people up there. We're going to have one person. Either all three of us go or it's not going to work.
That makes
Did
sense.
you try and get Gabe Newell to join you?
I wasn't on the phone. I don't know. I just know what my people tell me.
Yeah, who would be the PC rep of that time? Bill Gates? I don't know. I don't even know. Was Bill still at Microsoft?
Hey, we represent the console generation.
Yeah,
so.
That's fair. That's fair.
No, so you see what I mean? No, Shawn Layden makes it quite clear to you. You see the way he views PlayStation, the way he views the gaming industry. It's the console way. And he makes it quite clear. Look at that. Look at his eyes. He's still he feels totally different about this. You know what? I think this kind of gives us some more insight about certain things and the way certain aspects work in the PlayStation world is as well too. Oh man, that just made my day, man. Just really seeing how he's really commenting on this and taking it. It's pretty interesting. I think you guys know what I mean. That is absolutely hilarious. He is not seeing PC in a sense to be in the same ballparks as consoles. He feels like the gaming race is for consoles, and that's what started it all, and that's where it's that's where it's been since the beginning. And I respect his standpoint for that because there's still people that are like that as well too. And he's just not with what's going on right now at PlayStation. You can clearly see it, and he's not against and he's not with what Microsoft is doing either. Um, he's all about the consoles specifically only. Funny stuff.
Out of all your memories, like that was a fun one for me. I think it was a moment of solidarity and reminded everybody that, at the end of the day, we're here to play. We're here to play great games. And it doesn't matter what console you play on or what platform you prefer. It is about solidarity as a gaming community. And I really like that moment a lot. But for you, what was during your whole career, even while you were at PlayStation and maybe after you, if you'd like to share, what was one of your favorite moments, a moment that really stood out to you as touching or special?
I guess the one that stands out about there's plenty of times where I thought it's what a time to be alive, to be here when this thing is happening right now. I can't believe it. But probably the one that stands out all the time is walking out on the stage at E3 2016 to an 87-piece orchestra being led by Bear McCreary. To walk on stage as a full orchestra is playing, that was when we introduced God of War to the world. There's nothing that feels quite like that.
That moment has like millions of views online. I was actually in the audience for that one, and I had no idea it was coming. I'm a huge God of War fan. When I was at IGN, I did the God of War Ascension guide videos, I think. So I played that one a whole bunch and had always been a fan. What was it like for you getting to reveal that game? And you were there. So what was the feeling like for you on stage, behind stage? What was it like for the people who actually worked to make all that happen?
Well, a lot of it was informed by the fact that we had done our press conference for E3 for many years at the sports arena. And the sports arena then got torn down. I think they put a soccer pitch in there. And we had to find a new venue. And so we're shopping for venues in LA during the E3 time period, which is, as you can imagine, pretty much all spoken for when you get there. But the Shrine Auditorium was there. And the Shrine Auditorium has been around almost 100 years. Is a difficult venue to work with. People try to, they say, fight the Shrine, try to make it look modern, try to put trestles up and, scaffolding and whatnot. But we decided just to embrace the Shrine, go back to like that old 1930s musical theater flair, have an orchestra pit filled with an orchestra, bringing in a singer from Iceland, having that great red curtain open up to reveal that scene from God of War. And when Kratos steps out and says he's hungry, the crowd exploded. Now, of course, Corey's up in the balcony. He's actually playing this in real time. Of course, you always expect this thing's going to crash. It's going to bug out. Something's going to happen here. And we're all on pins and needles for that. No one more so than Corey. But it happened, and he stuck the landing. And I think that reveal was probably one of the best reveals we've ever done.
Do you miss it? Do you miss, because I actually thought that
Do
was
I miss 87-piece orchestras? The answer is yes.
no, doing the presentations at that theater. I remember it fondly. There were many shows there, and
You know what's so funny about Shawn Layden? I like him because he's a genuine guy. You could just tell. He really is about representing, the great moments with PlayStation and PlayStation winning the console race against Microsoft and PlayStation revealing that God of War moment. Though what I find interesting is, and I've told you guys this before, and this is not necessarily on Shawn Layden. This is just Sony on another aspect. God of War was deemed done before Cory Barlog's team had presented it, and they actually shut it down. They shut their own series down and had no faith in it. And Cory Barlog was also being mocked too, and he wanted to prove Sony wrong. So if you guys didn't know about that, that was a thing. God of War could have not happened, which I find interesting if it was up to Sony. The God of War team, Sony Santa Monica, with Cory Barlog leading, had to kind of like fight for that. It was some interesting stuff.
it was always really, really nice.
Yeah, it's fun, and it was a way that the industry grew up from breaking off from CES back in the late '90s to starting E3 to having the explosion of publishers and developers and every adjunct industry coming to LA to have this extravaganza, if you will. But then it kind of outlived its purpose. It kind of became an anachronism because when E3 began, there was no internet. When E3 began, there were magazines. Remember, kids, magazines? And you'd have to bring retailers into a trade show, and you'd have a guy say, "Hey, I'm Tony. I work with Sears. I buy Hot Wheels, Barbie, and video games. What should I be doing on the video game thing?" And you really had to educate retail about what this was. The guys from Kmart and Toys R Us and everybody, and talk to the press and try to get a cover on a magazine in September or October and that kind of thing. It really worked as a trade show in a time when it was hard to get your hands on game news unless you got a magazine once a month. Yeah. Then the internet hit, and then retail exploded, and then brick and mortar became tertiary to the retail experience. Something like E3 just doesn't have a place to play in that world.
Yeah.
We're not educating the retailers. You can't sell Christmas in June anyway because that's too late. You got to do all your Christmas business in February. So this date in June, where everyone came together, we really started to wonder, what are we here for? Because it's not a consumer event, and it's trade, and the press, we get news 24 hours a day, 365 days a year now. So people weren't announcing things at E3. No surprise announcements, or very few anyway. Maybe God of War was one of the last ones. It just didn't evolve with the times. And do I miss it? Sure, it was fun. It was great. But as a business person, doing things like E3 just automatically eats 4 months out of your life.
Yeah.
So you have 8 months to do on business and 4 months to get all your head around E3, post and pre.
Do you feel like Gamescom is kind of...
I liked how he's giving you the vision of being on board or being a president or being a vice president and being in those high-level executive positions. It gives you the idea of this is the way we're looking at the gaming industry. Now you guys see how like they were viewing things. Though Shawn Layden and them did the right things because he's been there since the beginning in '96 and '95, like he said. So I respect any type of information he's given. And like I said, Shawn Layden tells it how it is. He's not really a bullshitting type of guy, you can tell. And like I said, I kind of like his points about things as well. He's just pretty straight up about it, and he lets you know he's there for PlayStation, and he's pretty straightforward about it. It's pretty funny.
Kind of picked up that torch for the in-person events.
Yeah, Gamescom. Well, Gamescom and Tokyo Game Show, for that matter, they both began as consumer events.
Yeah,
and the thing of it is, because I've done a Gamescom, and I've done a Tokyo Game Show, obviously. The way you prepare for that, the way you design for that, is completely different than a trade show. You prepare for a consumer event. There's like an unspoken understanding by everybody that we have to optimize for throughput. We have to make the aisles wide. We have to make it go from Capcom to Namco to Sega, just keep them moving. But at a trade show, you design your booth more like IKEA. You get them in, but you don't let them out. You try to keep them in your own private Idaho as long as possible. So just the simple physical design of a trade show versus a consumer show I think are completely at odds. That's why you see at Gamescom, they actually have two different messe where they do this, right?
Yeah.
And they have size and scale there, so they can pull it off. I think, in America for consumer shows, we have PAX, we have Comic Con, we have a bunch of other small things going on. But E3, we may never see her like again.
Yeah,
That's cool to know the difference between like explaining that to people to know about that. How you would set up E3, like you said, as a trade show compared to a consumer show with like Gamescom and all those other games, and how much more time it would eat out of you for a trade show compared to something like, Gamescom and stuff like that. That's very interesting. It's a pretty unique interview. We're getting some inside intels about, like I said, how some of those things work in their positions, just so that everybody can know about this. Interesting.
I just I don't see the use case anymore, unfortunately, but I did enjoy getting to experience it. But yeah, once the big names started pulling out, it just became less relevant in the current space.
Yeah, and it started with Nintendo not showing up and showing people you could do the direct formats and have a bigger show than E3 without them being there. And what I mean by that is when they left E3, the stuff that you were seeing there, Nintendo's directs were bigger than that. So people started to get that idea of like, man, follow the leader again, and let's try our own directs. Then Sony basically did their straight Nintendo code ripoff, State of Play, and then Microsoft did their own thing. And next thing you know, people didn't need E3, and then Geoff Keighley came with Summer Games Fest on top of him having the Game Awards, in late fall as well, too. So that just voids it out as digital got bigger.
Yeah, because back on PS1 and PS2, those generations, at any given time, I think internally we're developing 20 to 25 games across the world. And now you fast forward 20 years from that moment, and you're developing 4 games a year, if that. And at any one given time, at that arbitrary date in June, would something be ready to demo? You just never know if that's going to work out for you.
Do you feel like that change is a good thing? The fact that AAA is like so few games, the budgets have ballooned so much. How do you feel about that drastic shift in various ways?
Destin, you know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
No. Well, I got to get it on
I don't
audio
like
so
it.
that the audience knows.
I'm deathly concerned about it.
Yeah.
I think it's an existential threat to gaming that we see these ballooning budgets for AAA games. We find that, as the budget goes up, the risk tolerance goes to zero pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
And while everyone can point to, but what about this, Shawn? That's a great success. That's a great success. Yeah, well, let me show you the buckets of not great successes, because it's huge.
Yeah.
And we have to, don't dwell on it. Don't dwell on the failures of the past, but definitely try to take a lesson from it. And how did you get there? And why did you do that? And how do you not do that again? And I think we're kind of trapped up against that. We either need to find a way to dial down the costs or just attack a whole new market again. What is the AA market? How does that come back to life?
Yeah. Do you see a path to some sort of new normalcy? Because I agree. I don't think it's sustainable the way AAA is going. You're talking about $300 million budgets, like long development cycles. It's like, I don't know how you have one failure. Like we saw what happened with Concord. It's really concerning when that just has a drastic dent in your war chest, so to speak. So do you see a path towards a newfound way that works or makes sense?
Well, I hope as a collective industry, we've all put our hand on the stove and found out it's hot.
Yeah.
So let's not do that again. I think there was a lot of sturm and drang and excitement around live services and games as service and recurring revenue and all of that coming out of COVID through that time period.
Yeah.
And a lot of publishers and developers got behind that and tried to get a piece of that pie. I think what we're learning over time, and maybe time was the only teacher here, that how many games as service can really be viable in the market at the same time? How many quote forever games can one person actually play? And then how do you grow a market again?
He said go forever. Yo, he said that. That is so funny. How many go forever games? Oh man, Shawn Layden, man, that's fucking funny, guys. I'm sorry, that's one of the funniest statements that I would see somebody like him make. Cope forever, games. No way he said that, man. That is so damn funny. I'm sorry, man. That's funny, but I know what he means, though. Like it, like he's saying he wouldn't have done that, guys. This is how you could tell that there was a shakeup going on too. That gets interesting about just that statement. What he said. Like, how many of these would you really try and think are going to be successful from a live service? He was not in agreement with that at all.
Against that. That's why we see there are some big games. You got your Fortnite, GTA Online, Apex, what have you.
Hmm.
But it seems really hard to break into that Magnificent Seven of live service games.
He wasn't with it.
And a lot of people have tried. A lot of people try to get in there, try to get a piece of that gold from that there mountain. But you look at most of the companies who have been successful, they're kind of backed their way into it, and took a great IP like Grand Theft Auto and turned it into a forever Grand Theft Auto Online. Fortnite. I'm old enough to remember when Fortnite was a $59 game.
That's right.
Right, and then as that didn't take off, that refused to get escape velocity and started coming back in the atmosphere. They jettisoned Battle Royale out the back end, and the rest is history. Right? You can't say Epic necessarily planned to do that. I'm sure they didn't.
No,
but
you can't.
They moved quickly. They found a marketplace. They dived into it. I think it's difficult to look at that market and say, I'm going to build something starting right now that's going to go in there and take over that market.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
A lot of people have tried, and that's another issue with the market is how do you get Destiny to stop playing Destiny 2? Like, that's the game I play every day, or I used to,
right?
But or the Fortnite player, like, how do you get the Fortnite player to try a different game and stick with it? Because you're competing for screen time. How do you get them to stop watching Invincible season 3? And all of that's competing for your time.
And there's a switching cost because if you switch to another looter shooter or hero shooter or something like that over there, and you say to your Destiny 2 friends, hey, come on, let's go do this thing over there. And they go, nah, we're not feeling it. And then you go, hey, I'm not feeling it either. Okay, we'll just stay where we're at.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's hard to get them.
Yeah, it's really hard. We learned that for the first time, kind of. Maybe we didn't understand at the time, but we had a game called EverQuest. You remember EverQuest?
Yeah.
Everyone was playing EverQuest.
That's how Final Fantasy 11 was birthed. So, oh yeah, great times, man. This is going all the way back to like 1999 and stuff.
EverQuest. It like knocked Lord British on his ass and took over that entire MMORPG world. And then we launched EverQuest 2 because that's what you did. You have a successful game and you release a sequel. That's the nomenclature or the syntax of game releasing. But that's when we realized, oh my gosh, what we've done is we had to bifurcate the audience. Thems that would buy into EQ2 and those that were just happy living in EQ1. So you kind of diluted your impact by doing that. And then we saw what that network effect is that you won't go to this new game unless you can bring enough of your friends to go with you to this new game.
There was also the WoW effect around that time too, right?
Yeah, that was just coming up to another distraction. And that ended up sucking up that entire market and realizing that you don't ship sequels, you just do expansion packs and build off the XE.
I wonder do you think EverQuest could ever make a big comeback?
Never say never.
Yeah.
I think it'd have to. I wasn't sure God of War could make a comeback, but it did.
Yeah.
From slasher hacker brawler game over there to a really a gripping narrative single player experience. So yeah, I'm sure things can come back, but I'm not quite sure how.
You've accomplished so.
Yeah, so this is part one of the interview that I wanted to do for you guys. Interesting stuff with Shawn Layden saying how they've learned so much, like going all the way back to those times, all the way now. What works for a live service, what doesn't. And it's important because live service is what cost him so much lately. And I'm like that I'm seeing his take. And by us looking at his take, we get a deep peer into, I wasn't on board with this, and I don't like it. And I don't like the PC stuff. I don't like them leaving the console race, and you could tell why he had to leave, right? And I don't particularly think Shawn Layden was wrong on the PlayStation sense. You know what I mean? So this was an interview to kind of get all those facets highlighted in front of us from him. And he makes it very clear. You can tell by looking at his face. He's genuine about it, and he's keeping his balance. But there's some emotions there too, big time. So yeah, let me know what y'all think. Like, comment, subscribe. All right, y'all. We'll be bringing you part 2 of this because there's a lot to dive into this. We may have to even do 3. But hey, I love doing this, and I love doing different types of videos. But yeah, like I said, let me know what y'all think. This is an interesting one. Y'all have a great day.